review this then. It's an LG that is 20 years old. This is a 2005 LG direct drive 7.5 kilogram WM12225FD. There's quite a few variations of this. So this is a 1200 spin, 7.5 kilo in silver. You could get this in white as well. You could also get this in a 1400 guys, 1600 guys, and a 1000 guys. Not in this country, but abroad. So we got the 12, 40, and 1600 variants. Other countries got 1000 spin variants. Although that they would only have the 12 and 1400 variants then in that case. Again, silver or white, and there's a 7 kilogram variant and a 7.5 kilogram variant. The 7.5 kilogram ones are basically later models anyway. So we'll take a look then. That's it. So at the bottom there, we've got our drain filter flap. It's got our coin filter in it. It's also got a drain hose as well, so you can drain the machine out if it gets clogged up before you open up the flap. Nice chrome door. At this point, they have been using these chrome doors for a couple of years. They did use this chrome door for basically a lot of the entire run. Some of the models, later models, did come with just plain silver doors or plain white doors, you know. But most of these are the chrome door. It's the same door. And behind here is the handle. So there we go, we've got our ratings plate. You can properly tell me down below when it was actually made if you want. Then we've got this huge drum with a direct drive. It is safe to say that this is actually bigger than my Nana's 8 kilo one. And probably slightly bigger than the 9 kilogram variants of like the 2009, 2010 ones. Yeah, we've got the drum paddles here. They're quite wide. They've got 6. We've got drum paddles here. They're quite wide. You've got 6 slots, but underneath they are screwed in underneath, so they won't necessarily snap. The only problem is these ones do rattle. I think 20 years of wear have put slight wear on the little tabs. They're not going to go anywhere because, like I said, they're screwed in. But they do cause a little bit of noise. Right. At the top here, that is a jet. Yep, 2004, 2005, and we had a jet. How cool is that? And it works. It does now. Yeah. So just a bit of background on this machine. I bought it with apparent motor problem and a noisy pump. But the noisy pump wasn't the actual drain pump, it was the recirculatory pump. This was clogged, and as it turns out, the actual pump was noisy because it was broken, so I replaced that pump. They said they also had a motor issue. However, I've since come to realise it doesn't have a motor issue. It has a pump issue. The other pump, the actual drain pump, will just occasionally just stop working. And then it will bring up an error code after 10 minutes because it can't drain. OE. And I think that's what he's been getting and not realised it. Putting it down to, in his words, with bigger loads you have this problem. Smaller loads are fine. And I just so happen to think that what's actually happening is when you've got a big load, there's more water to drain. The pump is working in such a way where it can drain a tiny bit of water, but then takes so long that it will time out. Whereas if you have a small load, then it can still drain that water even though the pump isn't properly working. So he's had that problem, I think, for a while. Have I changed the drain pump though? No, not yet. Not yet. I will do it, but because the problem is it will not do it every single time. You can get away sometimes with a few cycles without it doing it, and it will usually do it at the final spin. Turns out just by banging the machine, you can get it to work again. Go figure. So just to mention, the dimensions are here, and it is indeed 600 millimeters deep, and then obviously you got the door as well, so you're probably looking at 630, 600 wide, and 850 tall. Ready? Turn it on. There we go. So you might see a little bit of flickering. That's just simply because these are LEDs. The refresh rate is pretty much the same as the camera, so yeah, that's a bit annoying. Right, we've got 8 programs to choose from with a selection of temperatures for most of the programs. Right, so I'll just go through them. Obviously, we've got cotton, we've got it at 30, 40, 60 and 95. Then over here, we've got 60 Eco, which is the standard Eco program for this machine. This is before they started using the word standard. It's exactly the same. It still meets the regulations. We've got options too over here, so we can add on a pre-wash, which will add on 17 minutes to the program. It effectively does a 10-minute cold soak, then drains and spins. Then you've got crease care. What that will do is adjust the final spin and does bursts instead with anti-creasing in between. Most of the spins it will actually lengthen this, but however on the 1200 spin it will shorten it by about 6 minutes. Then we got Rinse Plus. It will add on additional rinse. It will do 3 rinses with a full load. And that's important for me telling you that. So adding on additional rinse will put from 3 to 4. Then we've got Time Save, which will save time on the wash. And I believe on the rinses too. Possibly. Right, then we've got Variable Spin, but instead of me showing you like here, I'm just going to do this. Turn her on, then press spin. So this is the way to select spin only program if you want to just respin stuff. And then we can show you the times for each spin. So we've got 21 minutes for a 1200. Then you've got no spin, which is obviously 1 minute. That's for drain only. If you want to do drain only, do this. 400 RPM spin. 800 and then 1000. No, there's times. Yeah, quite unusual. This is a 21-minute spin because on the later variants, the 1200 spin then becomes 15 minutes instead. Bit bizarre. Right. Again, I can show you with crease care what it does. Sorry, let's do this. So, crease care, 15 minutes. 15 minutes, 15 minutes, and 15 minutes. So regardless of crease care, it's going to either up the time because it's slow spin, or decrease the time because it's 1200 spin. So obviously selecting no rinse hold will just end at the final rinse, in the final rinse stage. Then you can either choose to do no spin, or you can do the full spin, or any spin that you wish. So like no spin, the timings do seem to indicate that after it's finished draining after the intermediate spin, it will just go into the next rinse. However, I've not actually tried it out, and obviously after the final rinse it will just do a drain and finish. But I'm not too sure because my Nana's LG, which is the latest model, they still spun in the intermediate spins even when set to no spin. So a bit of an odd one, but because it's decreases the time by quite a way, it makes me think it does cancel the intermediate spins as well. Talking of timings, you'll notice you've got 3 dashes here. What are the timings then? Well, here we got this little symbol that says detect, and that's because it has a load detection system by spinning the laundry prior to starting the wash. And therefore it will determine how much water, how long the wash, and what the wash action is going to be depending on the size of the load. Right? So just to give you an idea, for a full load for cotton 60 Eco, it's 3 hours 7 minutes. It's 2 hours 51 minutes for a cotton 95. 2 hours 45 for a cotton 60, about 2 hours 40 for a cotton 40, and about 2 hours 30 for a cotton 30. Select time save and you will take off 25 minutes for a full load, for whatever those timings are. With a small load with no load in, basically, a cotton 95 will take 2 hours, cotton 60 will take 1 hour 56, same with cotton 40, and then cotton 30 will take, I think, 1 hour 51. Selecting time save with basically no load in, or a small load in, will take off 20 minutes instead. There are 4 levels of detection as well. So cotton 95 timings, so it's 2 hours for a small load, 2 hours 25 for a half load or less, 2 hours 47 for a 3/4 load, and 2 hours 51 for a full load. That's what I've worked out. Or at least they're supposed to be 4 different levels. There may be more, but I've not found them all out yet. But there's definitely 4 different levels. Max load obviously for cotton is 7.5 kilograms, so you can work out with a quarter load that less than 2 kilograms is going to do the shortest time. Right. Obviously you can combine these options and you can have all the options if you want as well. Just whatever, it's really cool. Then we've got synthetics. Again, you've got the 3 dashes. Now, this is where it goes a bit wrong, because for some bizarre reason, with no load in, or with a full load, it's still the same time. Go figure. Yeah, because there is a way to actually trick it into thinking there's a full load, and that's by getting the water level in the drum so high, because it'll instantly come up then instead, rather than try and detect the load. And it will just go default to a full load. Max load for synthetics is 3.5 kilograms. But yeah, it doesn't seem to want to detect anything less than, well, certainly the timings don't change. Maybe the water level does, maybe the wash action changes, but the cycle times remain the same. Synthetic 60 is 2 hours, 2 hours 5-ish or something. Synthetics 40, I think, is 1 hour 39, and Synthetics 30 is 1 hour 30. You can select time save. This will take off 15 minutes instead for each program. You can have rinse plus, you can have crease care, and you can have pre-wash as well. Again, all those options do exactly the same. Again, 3 rinses as standard. Default spins 1000 RPM, which you can change and lower it. Right. We've also got this, which is time delay, but it's written wrong because it's actually delay end, not time delay. Time delay is how many hours to start you select before the cycle starts, but that is delay end. That's annoying. Yeah. Obviously delay end up to 19 hours, and effectively if you've got a 2-hour cycle and you say it's a 19 hours, it's going to time delay for 17 hours before it starts the cycle. Right. We've also got progress over here, so we've got wash, then the rinse, and then spin. If you select pre-wash and it's in the pre-wash, the pre-wash light will flash. Then we've got a door lock light here, and then we've got play pause, which is flashing in tandem with the play pause button. Obviously, you can pause the cycle at any time you want. If the water level's low enough, it will eventually unlock and allow you to add more items. But that's just to also reiterate, there is a time delay on that lock. It's around about 60 seconds, roughly. Right. Then we've got wool and silk. They don't detect the load, they just go ahead. Max load for wool and silk is 2 kilograms. You can have cold, 30 or 40. Again, you can add on crease care or rinse plus. 1000 spin, max. But also, what's weird as well, look at the difference between 400 and 800 and 1000. It stays the same, unlike, say, cotton, where there is actually a 2-minute jump or whatever, or 4-minute jump from 400 to 800. So the spin profile on the wool is different. I do believe that it doesn't do anti-crease at the end, unlike cotton, for example. Then we've got the hand wash. It's effectively the same cycle, just more gentle somehow. You got it cold or at 30 degrees. Again, you have crease care, you have rinse plus. Again, max load is also 2 kilograms and 1000 RPM spin. Then we've got delicate. We can do it cold, 30 or 40. Max load is 3 kilograms. It effectively washes in more water. It still does. This is the thing as well. All these programs do intermediate spins. The wool, the hand wash, and the delicate all do intermediate spins, which is a bit unusual. Max spin is limited to 800 RPM, and again, you haven't got the 4-minute jump like you normally have, but at least there is a jump this time around. Have crease care, and you can have rinse plus on these programs. Then we've got quick 30 max loads. It depends where you read it from. You read it from the service manual and it says 5 kilograms, but you won't read it in the user manual and it's 2 kilograms, which makes more sense. Effectively, you can wash cotton or synthetic laundry that's lightly soiled in half an hour. There's a caveat though to this. It's done at 30 degrees. Right, not so bad. It does 2 rinses. That's not too bad considering that nowadays we only do 1. And it's at 400 RPM. Yeah. That's not very good, is it? Yeah. So, if you want actually spun washing, you have to increase the spin. Which then adds on time. And that 1200 is the proper full length 1200. It's 21 minutes long. In fact, if you notice the time jump between 400 and 800, it's a cotton spin. Not a shorter version of the delicate or the wool. Right. You can also add on rinse plus. If you notice though, it only goes up by about 5 minutes, and that's because the rinsers don't have intermediate spins. Just drains and goes on to the next rinse. So it's quite bizarre how delicate, wool and silk and hand wash still have intermediate spins. Bizarre. Of course, you can also have crease care as well, and it does it. You know, it's locked in at that. So you could have a 1200 spin if you use like crease care and save yourself a little bit of time. And creasing. Right, so Dispenser. It doesn't look clean. It kind of isn't. Don't worry too much though, because we've also got this. That's rust. It's rotting under here. But that's because the seller more likely used hot washing. There's no mould in that door seal. And this detergent drawer has been used with powder. So more than likely it's been used at cotton 60 or 90 frequently. And unfortunately, the steam vent is all out the front of the drawer, which has, over time, rotted the top. Never mind, eh? Right, so we've got our pre-wash section here, which will hold about 150ml, our main wash section, which will hold about 300ml of powder, and the fabric softener compartment, which will hold, I think, around about 100ml of fabric softener, maybe a bit more, not sure. Trying to come across the information for this is usually quite hard when I'm doing these reviews. They just don't state it usually anywhere in the manuals anymore, which is a bit bizarre. They used to, and now they don't. Yeah, even by 2004, they've stopped kind of doing it, which is really annoying. Right, another thing is that this has auto off as well, so if you don't use it within 5 minutes of starting the program, this will automatically shut off. At the end of the cycle, it will shut off pretty much 20 seconds after it's finished and go off as well. The only time auto off won't go off is that if there's an error code, it will stay with the error code instead. Right. Turn back right. Oh, just to also mention, this has a hot and cold fill, but hot only works on 60 and 95. But even more interestingly, is that with 60 and 95, oh, and cotton eco as well, is that if it hits 40 degrees while it's filled with hot, it will just switch back to cold again. Talking of things you can also do as well, you can check the parameters of the wash at any point just by simply hitting this button here, which is time delay. So hitting spin will show you the RPM speed, hitting option 2 will show you the current temperature, and option 1 will show you the volume height of the water. what to give this out of 10 then? Well, I'm just going to go through a few of its flaws. Its rinsing is a bit of a problem. The rinse level seems to be quite low. Even with a full load, it distributes whilst using the jet, which is good. I suppose it's showering it through, but it's using a low water level. It isn't brilliant. I mean, don't get me wrong, compared to some modern machines, this is pretty good. But compared to other machines in 2005, this was really poor in comparison. Yeah, so there's that problem. Oh, and the other problem is it can still rattle a lot. Yeah, LGs have always rattled for some reason, and that's no different here. But other than that, the jet clogging up, that stuff bypassing the filter. To be honest, one was like a little wrapper off, say like a dishwasher cleaner, and that somehow was the cause of the blockage of the recirc pump. Obviously, the recirc pumps have also packed in, but they are 20 years old, so that also being said, yeah, there's that. But the bearings, still good. Spiders, still good. The electronics always work. They never really or rarely ever went wrong. Even now. Effectively, most of the time when these got scrapped, it was usually because the spider or the bearings usually did go. Especially if the bearings went, because then it will leak water. If water got through, it usually went onto the direct drive motor and short circuit that all out. So, you know, that would then cause a really big expense. But other than that, they are incredibly reliable. They are just very reliable. Not the best in the world. You know, Bosch are still going to be better. Even back in 2005. However, that also being said, I would say there's less Bosches about from 2005 that were sold than there are comparative to LGs that were sold, since LG was pretty new to the market still, back when these was being sold. So it was a bit of a hard one to kind of judge for the average person. Do you go with a brand that is well known, i.e. Bosch, or do you go for a brand that is relatively new and unknown into the market? It's the whole kind of, to be honest, the media effect. There's a lot of engineers don't like media, but I do. They have its flaws, don't get me wrong, the media stuff has its flaws, but I genuinely see media as a lot more reliable machines than, to be honest, a lot of the other brands out there, let alone, you know, say, let alone over Vestel, let alone over, say, TCL, or even Hisense. Like Hisense are pretty unreliable compared to Midea. I would rather Midea over the Hisense stuff. It's weird. The Midea stuff, like this bush beside me, they are pretty good. You know, Midea's pretty good. So LG then proved itself to be very, very good. And so far, we're 20 odd years down the line, and a lot of LGs are still up and running. The only issues that may have created some problems is the same problem that affects all LGs throughout its entire run, and that's not the motor, but what controls the motor, which is the Hall sensor. It's very cheap, it's very easy to replace, but they go wrong randomly. Very, very rare for boards to go wrong. They do occasionally go wrong. I believe my other silver LG, not this one, but the 2008 one, that does have a board problem, but never mind, we'll fix that at some other point. Right, enough rambling, so I'm going to give this out of 10. It's going to get a 8.5 out of 10. The rinsing lets it down. It's not the best built thing in the world, but it's incredibly reliable. The only other problem as well is the cycle lengths. They are pretty long. Even with time save on, they're still fairly long. You know, but then also it will give a better wash result. The other thing is, as well, is the low capacity, 7.5 kilograms. There was nothing really I can think of that had a bigger capacity than it, other than possibly the Bosch Logix 8. but that was also hugely more expensive. So, yeah, the only 7.5 kilo Hoover Nextra Mega Load. Don't know exactly when that came out. The Mega Load. It was obviously after the Nextra first came out in 2004. I think that was also 2005. So this would have been comparative to the Mega Load, but I'm sure that this drum is definitely bigger than the Mega Load, and far more reliable than the Hoover Nextra Mega Load. And it's better and didn't really go wrong. Yeah, the LG was far better. And I love the silver colour. I'm not, as much as I deal in white goods, I hate white. Yeah. For me, it's got to be silver. Leave a comment down below if you enjoyed this video. Say what you like about this LG, what you don't like. There are going to be other videos on my V2, what I like to call my V2 channel, my washing machine TV channel of this. Yes, it's got the little problem. Occasionally it comes up, but we have managed to film full-length cycles. And when it has gone wrong, it's always usually been the final spin. So, yeah. I will fix the actual pump on this at some point as well, properly. Not right now. But right now, this is the last video for it, and it's now going to be put away. So we'll do some more like wash races with it at some point. Probably against like the Indesit and a Bosch or something, I don't know. Something like that, and a hot point. Who knows? Cool. Right. Bye for now.